Well, hello. You are listening to the Level Up Empowering Possibility Show. This is dialogues of encouragement with fresh perspectives, invitations to ahas, a little bit of science, a dash of behavioral psychology, and a whole lot of creative fun. So if leveling up is on your radar, my friend, you are at the right show. I'm your host, Roseanne Marsh, and I'm the author of the teen and parent empowerment curriculum called Level Up Empowering Possibilities. And you are listening to episode number 18, The Power of Words. I have to say, I'm really excited for this episode, mainly because this is probably one of those subjects that I have studied and trying to embrace and learning more about. And it's incredible because there are so many different ways that we create. There's so many different ways that we change our life, so many ways that we can move the direction of our trajectory. And I have to say that words are one of the most powerful ways. And when we step into and recognize the power of words, and more importantly, when we recognize the words that we use on a day-to-day basis, we can stop and analyze and say, what am I using that empowers me? And what am I using that disempowers me? Words create. Words have power. And when we step into that power, when we realize that, through my words, I can change direction. I can change lives. I can heal something. I can help something. I can open up a world that I didn't know was there. Did you ever think that the words could do something that incredible? Well, yes, it can. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things I've discovered about the creative power of words and why I'm so passionate about it. But what should we be doing with our words? You know, it was a number of years ago that I had a minivan. Okay, I was the mom that took all the kids to school and was excited because, you know, the minivan, you just have to push a button and those doors open, whoosh, and just kind of slide back. You didn't have to have door dings because the doors didn't open up like wings, like most cars. They're like 27 cup holders. Loved the minivan. But I kept looking at, okay, a day's going to come when I stop driving a minivan and my kids are going to turn into teens and they're maybe going to want to ride in a different car. And so I had been looking at the Infiniti X80. It was a QX80. It literally was a larger SUV, not too large. And I had like a little trailer I wanted to pull out. Anyway, I'd go into the dealership and I'd ask to test drive it. And they're like, didn't you come in like 4 months ago? I'm like, yeah. And they go, okay. So it seems like every time I go into the dealership, they're like, yeah, here she comes again. She's not going to buy, so don't even worry about helping her. Well, one day the minivan was kaput and I knew that I needed to replace it. So I went into the Infiniti dealership. They saw me coming and I said, today's the day. And they said, what, you want to test drive it? I go, no, I just want to buy it. I think their jaws hit the floor. As I said, those magic words, I want to buy. So I remember sitting there filling out all the paperwork. I had found one on the lot that I liked. It was white with a beige interior. I like those light interiors. Anyway, the only thing I remember, at the very end, they said, what kind of license plate do you want? Do you want the skier or do you want the one with the beautiful Moab arches of southern Utah? And of course I said, I want the arches. And that's all I remember. Well, got the car, the big car. And all of a sudden, the gas mileage that I was used to, like 22 miles to a gallon, was getting 13. I was like, man, I might as well be driving a huge truck. I could not believe the gas mileage. And then the turning radius was not quite what my minivan was. It was harder to get in, and it was flipping from all-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. And I just kept thinking, what have I done? Buyer's remorse. This is too big. What have I done? Anyway, I every day was thinking, I've made a mistake. This is too large. This is too big. The gas mileage isn't good. So, when you're not happy with something, I probably should have just taken it back, but I didn't dare after that many years of looking at the car. And my friend knew about the troubles I'd had, and he actually found that there was a gas leak and there was a recall. We got that fixed, so the gas mileage went up. He was at my house one day and he said, "Where's your license plates? You don't have them on." And I said, "Oh, they're just in the back of the car." He said, "Well, do you want me to put them on?" I said, "Sure." And so he opened up the envelope that I hadn't even opened. I just threw it in the back of my car. And he started laughing. And he said, "I didn't know that you ordered customized license plates." I said, "Well, I didn't." He goes, "Yes, you did." I go, "What? Show me the license plate." So he brought the license plate over to me and I looked at it and my eyes got so big and I started laughing. And then I went, "Oh my gosh." Okay, now, if you're just listening to this, you have to remember that this was a QX80 Infiniti, QX80. My license plate says X80 2LG, X80 too large. Oh my gosh, there written on my license plate were the words that I was saying every day about this vehicle. I manifested the words written on my license plate. It was amazing. And this was a time of life when I felt like the universe was teaching me from all directions, all sorts of lessons and ahas and experiences. And wouldn't you know it, there were my words written on the back of my car. I even have that car today. I don't even want to sell that car because that license plate is such a reminder to me every day that the words that we speak, the words that come out of our mouth, create in the most amazing way. Now, can you imagine? Can you imagine if the words that we were feeling, our thoughts, etc., came across our forehead like a reader board? I mean, if it was just as obvious as like my license plate, would that be crazy? Well, we'd obviously be able to know what people are thinking and feeling. But if you were to write something on your license plate, what would you want it to say? And more importantly, we can figure out what we're thinking, what we're feeling. All you need to do is sit down and write. In fact, I encourage you. I know you may not be in the position right now, but find a time if you were explaining to a friend something really hard that you were going through, a challenge that you're going through, maybe a relationship, might be your job, might be something. How would you describe that to your friend, your intimate friend, right? You're unplugged, you don't have to edit anything. You just say it the way it is. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. If you get a chance to do that, pause this if you can, and go ahead and start writing right now. Because it's interesting how we perceive things, and it's all good. It's all good because it is what it is. And I think that's the beauty of life. And what I'm learning is there is no judgment. We cannot judge what we think and feel. We can only learn from it. So if you use this as an exercise to learn, it's really powerful. Go after that with no judgment and no editing. But as we know, the brain uses repetition to learn. It's searching for patterns and consistency in our world. So whatever we hear repeatedly, or whatever we hear or experience through a lot of repetition or emotion, our brain gathers that. And it's like the advertisers say that the more someone hears something over and over and over again, they start to feel that it's truth. They start to think that it's truth. It's called the illusion of truth. So any statement that we read or see or speak regularly, we start to see it as valid, more so than something that we just see occasionally that may have more truth. So it's amazing that it makes no difference whether information is true or false. A lot of it has to do with the amount of exposure that we're given. Now imagine if the words that we use against ourselves are negative. If the words we use against ourselves are debilitating. Because it's done with frequency and emotion, we start giving validity to it when it may have nothing to do with the truth, nothing to do with who we truly are. You know, the University of California did a study and they said that a weak message that's repeated more times has more validity than a strong message that's heard only once. And the same goes with pictures, which are just thoughts and ideas that have been concentrated into an image. So repetition increases our mental validity to anything that we are exposed to. Consider those times when you falsely accuse yourself about being, oh, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm out of shape, I'm not competent, I can't keep up, I don't have time. You begin to understand this internal propaganda that we have that really is trying to take us down. But the thing is, we are sabotaging ourselves. Now think of the environment out there too, how much of that is used for us. And I'm going to give you an example of why that's so powerful. If I said to you, what does this remind you of? Just do it. Is there a certain company that comes up in your mind? Or if I said that snap, crackle, pop, what comes to your mind? Now, if you said a cereal, and there's so many more that we could go through, but there are product service ideas that are put before us because of repetition or of some amazing other things that I've talked about in other shows. We, because of what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and imagine, we assimilate that into our body and our synapses create these connections. Because remember, we don't have a truth filter. We don't have a filter that everything comes down through and says, oh, wait, no, don't believe those words. Oh, wait, no, that's not true about you. It allows everything to come in. And then it's up to us to be able to decipher, okay, the things that I have told myself or the things I'm hearing or whatever, is that truth? Is that my truth? Is it what I want? Is it what I want to be exposed to? And then if we are exposed to it, then what do we do? Well, today I wanted to talk about the power of words because it's one of those things that is the most powerful as far as creation, but it's one of those things that as we become aware, as we start to see and hear even what we say to ourselves, if we can make those even subtle changes, we can make a change in trajectory. In 1979, there was a large passenger jet with 257 people on board that left New Zealand for a sightseeing trip, and they were going up to the Antarctic. But unknown to the pilots, someone had modified the flight coordinations by a mere 2 degrees. So as they approached the Antarctic, the pilots descended to a lower elevation to give the people a better look at the Antarctic. And although they were both experienced pilots, none of them had ever flown this before. So they had no way of knowing that they were 28 miles off their mark. And what they didn't know was that they were right in the path of Mount Erebus. It's an active volcano that rises from the frozen horizon all the way up 12,000 feet. Now, as they flew along, they couldn't tell the difference between the snow and the clouds. And by the time they realized that they were in trouble, the instruments went off and there was no way to course correct. And it was a huge tragedy. The airplane crashed into the side of the volcano, killing everyone on board. It was a terrible tragedy brought on by a minor degree, a matter of only a few degrees. And here's the amazing thing about this story. It tells us how devastating just a little bit off is in our life. But as you know from flights, how many airplane flights are there all the time? A pilot will tell you, we course correct constantly. And it's the same way in our life. We have to course correct constantly, and we get to course correct. That's part of our learning here. And when we can course correct, we can keep ourselves from crashing into those mountains, those proverbial mountains, creating disasters in our lives, repairing what we've done, learning from it, and going forward. So what are those words that we need to repair? Well, obviously, we know that there are sharp and harsh and painful words. I know it's a rhyme that we've known all our life, but when they say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. There is nothing more erroneous than that. Of course they hurt. And a lot of the words that we use sting and can hurt, just as if we were throwing bullets at someone. And maybe you've been the recipient of that and know exactly what that feels like. Well, I don't want to go into a lot of depth about the negativity of harsh words. There's some negativity that we think isn't that harsh, like gossip, etc. It has the same ability to erode and deteriorate. Remember, our words create. Our words have a vibration and a frequency to them. And what we put out there stays out there. What we plant grows. So let's talk about the two different kinds of words there are. There are words of life and there's words of deterioration. Words of life make things grow. They're encouraging, they're motivating. They're words of charity, they're not flattery. They enliven, they seek solutions. They're words of peace, they're words of harmony. They're words of happiness, of joy, of selflessness. They're words of accountability, and they take us in a forward direction. Contrast that now to words of deterioration. Now there's almost a heaviness. There's almost a tangible weight to words of deterioration. It does exactly what you're hearing. They drag us to a lower vibration. They're pessimistic. They have doubt attached to them, judgment and impatience. They have ego or superiority or justification attached to them. These words are opposite of the words of life. These are words of hopelessness or despair or ingratitude or selfishness. They're about anger and spite, a sense of loss, about unhappiness. They're about being stuck, and they're about hate. Now, those may seem like really strong ways to describe these words, and there's variations in between, but just think, words of life bring growth, and words of deterioration don't bring growth. So what words are we using? So there are limitation and obligation words that we use all the time. And I'm sure when I mention some of these, you'll go, oh, yeah, I do use those. But wait, those aren't really bad words, are they? Well, remember, when we talk about our destiny or getting to a destination or where it's pointing, if we were an airplane and we were flying somewhere, our trajectory is determined by a couple different things. First is what's our thoughts? And then when we attach feelings to that, it becomes our beliefs. And our beliefs, of course, become our actions. And our actions, whatever we say, do, think, feel, etc., take us to that destination. So when we start thinking about if we're off even that 2 degrees, what's that 2 degrees? What's that 1 degree? It's going to take us in a different direction. Maybe we have an attribute that we want. If I want to be a certain person, but yet my thoughts and my feelings and my words speak something differently, I can't get there. That's the beauty about the words. The words are going to create. So here are just some of these. Pay attention to words that if we can limit what we use and add in some other things, makes a huge difference in our life. We have to work with the brain the way it can understand. So there are some categories of words that we use that we may not even understand that we use, that literally the brain can grab onto, and it takes us into a different direction. It's just that like that trajectory, that 2% off, how disastrous that was. Whatever our goal and our destiny is, if it's here and my thoughts and my words are here, it's taking me here, it's not taking me here. So we have to even listen to the little nuances. And I'm not just saying the gossip and the big things. These are the small words that can make a huge difference in our life. So a couple of those are called limitation and obligation words. So with limitation words, we're saying it's never going to happen. It's impossible. It can't happen. It won't happen. I'm not good enough. Those things that put limits on us. And you know, we all have a never word. Like, you know how they say never say never. Even that isn't accurate. But one of mine that I say is, or did, was I never have time. I never get things done. I've changed that now. I don't say that because even that never, it's almost like I was manifesting into my life, just like I was manifesting with that license plate. I was manifesting that I never had enough time. So the end of the day would come and I was like not getting it done. So now my thoughts are, my words are different. So instead of saying I never have time, it's like I have time to accomplish all that I need. And when I'm redirecting what I'm saying, when I'm rephrasing what I say, my brain is helping me do that. Would there be a possibility that I'm not going to get everything done that I wanted to? Yes, but the chances are better that I'll be able to when I use a different terminology or a different way to phrase it. Another one is called the obligation words. Obligations are like, I have to, I need to, I'm forced to, and there are others, etc. But when we can turn that around to choice words, there's a freedom that happens. So like, I need to go to school, or I have to go to school. No, you don't have to. You choose to because you want to get an education, or I have to go to the grocery store. No, you get to go to the grocery store. I get to go to the grocery store because then I can get food for my family so that we can enjoy this beautiful meal. What a difference. Can you even feel the weight difference when it's I get to go as opposed to I have to go. I have to go. Now, there are some things that we need to do. Now, there are some things that need to be accomplished. But when we put it in a phrase of a choice that we get to do, because we really are making choices in our life, but we can choose to feel like we're obligated all the time and there's a dreariness and a have to or a choose to, even if something that's not very fun to do, like a pet messes on your floor. I choose to clean it up because I love a clean floor. Can you see the difference there? The truth is that any obligation can be a choice for us. A feeling of should indicates that we want that end result, but there's a conflict in that feeling. But when we rephrase it to, I want to, I get to, I choose to, we turn it into something good for us. Now, these may seem like simple little tweaks, but it's that 2% or that 5% or that 10% difference of how we're going to achieve our goals, or the happiness or the virtue we're going to have, or the patience, etc. And how do we speak over other people? Now let's try a couple of these just for instance, on how to relanguage what we're saying. Like, she's driving me crazy. Now, what is that creating? What is that manifesting? Okay, you don't want your brain trying to help you go crazy. Maybe it's she's enhancing my patience skills. See, there's that little nuance of being able to tweak that. Or I can't get a decent job. And more than that, it's I haven't found the perfect job yet, but I'm attracting the perfect job to me as we speak. Or I can't trust anyone. Maybe it's like I have the ability to discern those that I can trust. And here's one. I am exhausted. Another thing you could say is, I think I've earned a nap today. See those subtleties of retweaking, rephrasing. Now, this was a fast velocity way of coming around to the words and how they create, but at Level Up Empowering Possibilities, we teach a whole chapter just on the power of words and on thoughts. And in fact, coming soon on Amazon.com, The Power of Words and Thoughts, you'll be able to purchase a little booklet that will teach you an amazing tool to take you from those hard things like, okay, how do I rephrase that? Or how would I say that differently? How do I turn that into a word of choice? And how do I get my brain to accept that? We don't just flip something. Our brain has to accept it. So I'm going to give you a couple others that maybe you can work on. Try this one. Why do I have to do everything myself? How would you rephrase that one? What about this one? Why can't you do anything right? Have you ever used that before? We have to remember that our words can be weapons, or they can be words of life that bring growth. Now, if you took a moment at the very beginning and you wrote down a description of something difficult you were going through, a relationship or a job, something, and you wrote those words down, I want you to go back now and look at that and circle anything that you thought was a word of life and anything you thought were words of deterioration. Those are amazing indicators of opportunities to be able to rephrase how we speak and be able to put life into what we are experiencing. Yeah, there are difficult things. Do we have to be Pollyanna about everything? It's not about that. It's about rephrasing it in a way that puts it in a positive direction. It could be something like, if it's a boss, my boss is the worst. I cannot believe this. I don't understand. He's not fair to people and whatever. Maybe it's like, I don't agree with what my boss does or how he does things, but there are bright lights at my job. And there are people that I have connected with. And when I go to my job, that's where my focus is, because I want to make a difference in what I've been hired to do while I'm there at that employment. Because we can ruminate on how we have the worst boss he possibly could be, or we can shift our focus to a place that we have control over. The most amazing thing about words is the fact that they are a regurgitation of what's in our mind and in our subconscious. When we can speak untapped, we know exactly what the feelings of our heart, the feelings from the experiences that we've had in our past. We know exactly where we need to do healing or need help or direction, because those experiences of the past are driving our behavior of today. They are the things that are either holding us back or they're propelling us forward. When we can learn to change the way we speak, we can change the way we think. And when we change the way we think, we can change the way we speak. Words are powerful. When we can become more conscious of the words that we speak, we can become more conscious of the thoughts that we think. And it's almost as if we start seeing life very differently. Because when we start being careful about the limitation and obligation that we speak so freely at times, that we are habituated, and we start turning those into words of choice and liberation, then we start seeing life in a very different way. Paradigm shifts can happen in the most extraordinary ways. We are creators. We determine the path that our life takes. We determine how we react to life. We determine whether we speak with words of life or words of deterioration. We decide whether we see things as a choice or as a limitation or an obligation. If you want to learn more about the skill of learning how to rephrase, learn a new language, the language of life, we invite you to join nobrainers.com/learn more to learn more about Level Up, Empowering Possibilities, a course for teens and the teen in all of us. We invite you to join because we're all creators, and words are one of the most powerful creations that we as humans have been given. Thanks for joining me this week, and we'll see you next week.